Middle of Vayz Gimel. It's a very big kitzah the Kemaim and the Kudus. Okay, so he's explaining now the union of Podoh B'Shalom Nafshi Mikaravlik, all of the whole pasuk. Ki Rabbi Yemodi now, as it is in Torah, first and foremost, and then in Avodah. It starts in Torah. Istalka B'Iraisa Ubara Alma, and therefore it's in the world in our Avodah. So what is the union of Podoh B'Shalom as opposed to a Pediya not B'Shalom as it is in Torah? Let's start, I think we're up to there. No, we started it, we'll start again to get the flow. So Bira union Podoh B'Shalom Kamesha B'Torah, to understand this the way it is in Torah, in Yedua, the Torah B'Shamayim, it's known that Torah is not in Shamayim, and not known Lamata, but it's Dafka, it was given down here. Yos, Shatirim Tas Lamata B'Makim, Hacheshech V'Asichlus. Since the Torah has come down to the world of darkness and foolishness, and he says in Order 13, noteworthy that which, this is noteworthy with respect to that which Chazal say in Medrash, and Ashi brings it, Asher Bara Likim Lasa, is that God created to do. What does it mean to do? Lisakin, to fix the world. It had in brackets, Gam b'matzav shekoydem achet. He emphasized the word Bara, that the very creation of the world needed fixing, even before the Chet, not only after the Chet Adam Rishon. That which Bara Likim requires tikkun. That's because this world is the world of Cheshech and Sichlus, even Lifnei Achet. Somewhat of a chidush. Lifnei Achet, it's a good world, a perfect world. And the point is that with the Chet, there's even a greater aliyah. He's saying it, no, he's actually saying in essence, even before the Chet, it needed fixing. Fixing. Not just Elotel Disperetz, as we learned in the previous Maimon. It's, as he says it here, it's Cheshech and Sichlus. So, the Torah comes down here, it's in need of redemption. It's in prison. And then, and then there's the Yisnoi Min HaCheshech. You do, and in light of that which is known, in the upper worlds, the given is elikus, and existence is novel. Here it's the absolute contrary. What's obvious is existence. And what's novel, it has to be discovered, and not obvious, is godliness. So and this is what we mean by Pediya. This is something novel and new. That's the redemption. To reveal that which is before utterly concealed. So that's Bechlal Welt. As Torah comes into the world, Torah has to be redeemed. Now in Torah itself. And likewise in Torah. In Torah itself, the Pediya in Torah, there are several ways. And generally there are two ways. We'll do this, so, okay. Ois Gimel of the middle of Ois Gimel. ה'תשמ שבעבודת האדם ישנה פדייה באופן של מלחמה לפדייה בשלום. The same way that by a person there's two kinds of pediya, through a battle or peaceful. שזה החילוק בין עבודת התפילה למידת תורה. That this has been between Torah and Tefillah, as we explained yesterday, that Tefillah is a battle and Torah simply paskins and the change happens. So there is a better gufa yesh kama, there are several, and in brackets generally shnei you find him two ways. Number one, if is where we're up to, right? Oifen shel limud ha'Torah k'mishakos v'chanech l'nad al pi darkei. So there's one way of oifen, one way, as conveyed in the pasuk, educate the lad according to his way. So that means the Torah has to be adapted. We have to adapt the whole methodology and so on to the matzav of the learner. The Rambam in his Pirush Mishnayos elaborates, the educator has to find many solutions, etc. Such that the limud and the chinuch, there's two inyanim here. There's the limud, the information, and the chinuch, the upbringing. The chinuch, it should accord to the way of the one that learns. Hanar. As he stands at that moment, which means it's constantly evolving. And that the Rebbe it calls a battle. It's a milchama. It's not easy and requires constant engagement and reassessment. I have a very powerful message for teachers. It's not the same old. Every kid is different. Every year is different. The matzav changes constantly, and they have to constantly find solutions and ways to make it interesting and to adapt and to get the message across and be machanech. And strong words, it's a milchama. So that's one leif. Then there's a way of limud. He's talking about the person learning himself. Well, mind you, it could also be the way it's taught, Rosh Yeshiva gives the shir, and they sit and listen. There's no engagement here on their level. So how's he learning? He's learning the way Torah is in Shemayu. Even though he's learning Torah down here. The way he learns, or even teaches, he's not even connected to the Metzias of the world. We had a teacher that sometimes would teach with his eyes closed. He didn't even see us. You listened, good. So there's no connection to inyanim of the world. Sometimes that's appropriate. There was a Mr. Lobenstein in Australia. Sheikhet. He came here as a young man after the war. So I don't know his history, but from Germany. Anyway, he was a sheikhet, a teacher, a sofer, and he would teach the women. There was a women's shir on Shabbos. He'd teach it with his eyes closed. So that's one. That's another eifin of limud where he's learning in such a way. It's completely, no shaykhs to the world. They say about certain Mittel Rebbe also, but many, that they didn't know Tzuras and Matbeya. If you gave them a coin, they wouldn't know, its value and the Russian. And yet, the Baki and Shas and Gemara, and the complexities of financial disputes and futures and so on, as you get a taste of when you learn the Rambam, completely Baki in that, but lapel the Metzias of the world. It would be, so if this is a coin, then this is what it means. Or if this is a chicken, then the halach is such and such. He never saw chicken. He never actually saw the lung. He knows the whole thing in abstraction. So that's another kind of limud. So he's saying that's a limud of Podoh B'Shalom, because he's not engaged in the world, and he's redeeming the Torah as it were. The Torah needs redemption. He established that. It's come down to the world. But it's in a way of shalom because he's connected to heaven. His whole limud is in a heavenly way. Just like in the way of learning, there's these two ways of milchama and shalom, as illustrated. That is a better good. Likewise, in Torah itself, in the very subject matter. This is what I says in Zayar. When his body began its HaKadosh of Balagula, and explained in the Geretz HaKadosh of the Balagula of the Alter Rebbe. This wasn't said Yitzchak Kislev, but this was said out of Yitzchak Kislev. That he says there that Eitz Hadas Tevara, the tree of knowledge of good and bad, good and evil, Yesh Ba Kasher Umachlekes. So there, at that level, there's questions of machlekes, in brackets, milchamta shel Torah, according to Gemara and Sanhedrin. The whole battle, the Chachamim argue, the taritz or the varid hamaskona, to answer and to clarify the conclusion. That's the what of nigla the Torah, which is eitz hadas toivara. So that's a pedia in a way of milchama. And then pnimis it's chayim. Then there's the other tree in the Gan Eden, which is the tree of life. That's pnimis Torah, which, just by the way, they wish to put it there as a temptation. That's it. Everything in Hashem's world has to have a positive, affirmative. For that matter, the Eitzadas also is a temptation. An affirmative purpose. The answer is yes, but it'll take time till we get there. At Chassidus, Pnimis HaTorah, the last time on Loi Kasha, there are no questions there. And Veloy Stira, no, it goes on the Lashain is there. So that's what of the level of Torah, which is Beshalom. You learn there, it's not in this labyrinth of questions and contradictions. It's a Gilul course. Vadam Ayonis Teretz of Hashem Tov, and especially the wellsprings of the Hashem Tov's teachings, Shenis Galsov, Bederisenu, B'Teres Achsidus, which were revealed in our generation, Chassidus. So V'zeu Inyin HaPdiya B'Shalom, that's a Pdiya B'Shalom. So that explains Podoh B'Shalom as opposed to Podoh not B'Shalom. Now we have to explain Kiruv or Richuk, Mikrovli. That explains now. Yeah, is Dalit. Vinyan HaPdiya Yechel Li is Beifen Sharichuk Eshel Kiruv Kanal. As said before, there's two ways, distant. The Pdiya can mean a way of distance or nearness. And the Pasuk explains and innovates that this Pediya is Mikravli, Beifen Shal Kiruv. So what is the Inyan? So it says in Gemara, the Gemara brings a steer in the Psukim. You know what, it's brought down in Shulchan Aruch. It brings the Shulchan Aruch. It's interesting. But the Nekuda is that after Churban Beis Hamikdash, the Shaila is, before Churban Beis Hamikdash, for sure, when a person davens, he has to face Yerushalayim. The question is afterwards. So one pasuk seems to imply, look heavenward, and the other one, look to the earth, downward, because the earth, meaning here the Beis Hamikdash, the Kedusha still remains. The answer is not a stira, of course, to some degree, in terms of manifested Kedusha, it departed. In terms of essential Kedusha, it remains. So then how should one daven? So the Gemara concludes, here it is, this mispal tzarich shitin einav lamata. His eyes should be cast downwards. That is the connection to Pashup Kipshut, the Gemara in Shulchan Aruch. It is the inyan of what? Of the fact that the Kedusha remains lamata in the Makom Beis Hamikdash. But the libay lamayla. But his heart should be disconnected from Belam Haza and connected heavenwards. He actually brings that in the Pasha Begashmes, how a person should stand at the end of that sif over there. Alteva brings from the Sefer Chassidim, from Rabbi Huda Chosid, that someone who davens with his, like his, this is the Lashon over there. If someone davens and he's looking like this, when he davens, his head's like that, his eye look upwards, the angels mock him. That's the Lashon he uses. The eyes should be down. It's a begashmidik posture. The heart up, meaning to say the machshavas. The libel l'mayla means the machshavas. It should be connected to heavenly things, but still ein of the matter. That's Pasha Begashvis. The Alter Rebbe's teaches, yeah, we're clear. Shetzarech is shayich v'roya gamas amata. The Alter Rebbe explains the pnimistic meaning is that even though davening is attachment and transcendence, nonetheless, his eyes must be cast, as it were, downwards. The whole kavan is to bring the rotzo into the shuv. Hainu shegam b'yoysei libay l'mayla. Even though his heart is connected above, kosher l'mayla, bound up above. Tzarich liyos royes hamato, he can never disconnect from seeing, being aware of the consciousness of the matter. Ha'ilam being yonder of the world and all of its matters, because that's the whole kavanas. After he comes out of davening, is to bring that into his world, into the world at large. So this is going to explain to us the inyan how it is up in Torah, right? Because this is to explain the inyan of Richok and Kiruv in Torah. As he continues, so likewise in Limanat Torah, because he has to learn in such a way that it should bring to Maisa. So that's thinking of what? Krovli. K'mayim Marazal, Godel, Limud, Shemevi de Maisa. Great, right? The Gemara in Kedushin. What's greater, Limud or Maisa? In the end is Godel, Limud, Shemevi de Maisa. The objective, ultimately, of Limud it brings to Maisa. Furthermore, he learns in such a way that it should come out lahalacha. This is especially in yeshiva and in Zal. There's a whole seder in Lubavitch in Chabad. I don't know if they do it today, but I used to. As outlined by the Rebbe Rashab, in how the limit should be. And at the end, you go through a sugya and you learn it the way it is in Shas and Poskim, all the way down to the halacha, not just the Gemara, Tosfos and Mefarshim. Hamaskona lemaise binyon elam. The maskona lemaise in matters of the world. Asher dafka oz only then are the limit because it's to such a limud to bo el amitis havonos halimud vakavana. That's when he's understanding of the limud, and the intent of the limud is arrived at. That the limud is dafka and the maisa in the final ruling, that the depth of the whole inyan is revealed, pashat havana, the soga, and the kavana of the mitzvah, etc. So that is the taich mikrovli. It's near to me, meaning to say near here in Eilam Hazeh, that the b'diya Podoh בשלום nafshi, as he speaks in Torah, means that he's redeeming and engaging in matters of the world, not take the other ifan of limud, disconnect, but he brings the world with him and redeems it in his personal redemption. Starting with the way it is in Torah, that his learning is in such a way that it's connected ein of lamata. Yeah, it's very big kid, so they seem to explain much more in other places. Hey, Omamshich, because of the pasuk continues, Kibarabim hoyu imodi. So we gave two pirushim already. The first thing is Tfilas Harabim, and the second thing, Geula. That the Geula is also of the Rabbim. Pardon?
In this matter, we touched on the Tfilah Rabbi.
Yeah, yesterday. I don't know, look at the end of Ois Beis, Mamish, the end of Ois Beis. Yeah? You see it there. So what are the two Perushim? Not so clear. The first one is, let's look at it there, end of Ois Beis. Tfilas Harabim. And the second one, I didn't say it yesterday properly. The second pirush is that the Rabbim were part of the Geula. That the Geula affected many, not just me. Lo yisi bilvad. Okay. Now let's see inside. Remember he brought he quotes from the Frierdiker Rebbe, brings in the order from the Alter Rebbe also. That it wasn't just me, it was the Baal Shem Tov and his Talmidov that were arrested. that the kiddush was leveled against. Okay, now to explain it. So Mamshich, because of Rabbi Moishe, Pirush Aleph was the first Pirush is Kol Ze Nas Al Yedei Tfilas HaRabim. How did I keep Rabbi Moishe? How did I merit this whole Podoh B'Sholom and Mikrovli because of the Tfilas HaRabim? The Tfilah of the many. Kafilu Kashodem Misol Hu B'Tachlis Hashlemis B'Avedosei. Even if a Yid his personal avodah is perfect. Even then, there is a virtue and advantage to his davening, incomparably so. Where do we see this? The Gemara points out the stira. One pasuk says Hashem is always found, and one pasuk says only b'chol kareinu ilav. So when is he always found? When you daven, it says mitzvah. B'chol kareinu ilav. B'chol kareinu ilav. It says mitzvah. No, it's not. When he is found, is a seres mitzvah. And b'chol kareinu ilav. At any time, that's tfilas harabim. I'm not saying that right. No. It can't be yochid. Can't be tzibur. Yeah. That's what the Gemara says. Can't be yochid, can't be tzibur. Be-yochid, it's only at certain times, and when is that a seres mitzvah? And b'tzibur, it's always. So, call on him when he is found. When is he found? As seres mitzvah for the yochid, but for the tzibur, he's always present. Now he adds, but nonetheless, k'muvan it's inside here. K'muvan gamba tfilas seres mitzvah shom berazal hasam biyochid hasam bitzibur. One pasuk is talking about the individual that has special times, and that's seres mitzvah. And b'chol kareinu love is b'tzibur. So shatfilas hayochid v'seres mitzvah. So on the one hand, what do we see? That davening b'yochid seres mitzvah is equal to tfilas harabim mishayim meis hashana. It's a time of divine favor. So then, like that divine favor is always displayed to the tzibur, it's displayed to the yochid during that time. And mikol makom, here's the point. In the doimet tfilas hayochid beres seres mitzvah, tfilas rabim seres mitzvah. So even a seres mitzvah where the yochid's tfilas betachlis hashleimus, that's what he's saying. Can't be yochid. And Chassidus says can't be yochid means can't be the chidush on nefesh. Nonetheless, davening b'tzibur is greater still. That's the first pirush. So the first pirush is ki barabim hayimodi. How did he? In what merit? Does David the Melech merit Podoh B'Sholom nafshi because of the great ma'ila tefillah b'tzibur? Clear? Pirush Rabbi Posik. The second pirush is shekoil sarabim as kol Yisrael imodai. He includes the rabbim, all Yidden with him. So I understand that moving. Like that brings in Siddur from the Yad Yizal. So what's he saying? He's saying that Podoh B'Sholom nafshi. Why? Because it wasn't just about me, but I brought Rabbi Moyemodi. My redemption was the redemption of everyone, of others. So what's the inyan? Before a person davens, so first and foremost, he's davening. It's his individual obligation. This isn't about the community. It's about him. Nonetheless, it's appropriate that in Mekabel Alai, mitzvah sasei v'yafta arecha kameich. Ta'amir zui lifnei matoivu. We say this even before matoivu. Meaning to say it's at the foundation of davening. V'nimsheches b'chol hadarges v'shalvei atfila. V'shlavei atfila. And it's drawn through all of the levels and shlavim, rungs of tefillah. Matoivu, Heidel Hashem, Tfilas Hamida, V'yad Tfilas Aleinu L'Shabeach, and then V'al Kei Nekaveh. Shom Yeshua ben Nun composed the Aleinu. Kishakova Shesat Yisrael, Bepam Rishayna, when he conquered, it's interesting that it was going it this way. He conquered at Yisrael the first time by from the Nachlas Eilam in a way for as an eternal inheritance. Meaning to say that the end of davening ends up with what? With the ultimate objective. At Yisrael, forever. It's obviously, there is Dafka mentioning this now. It's obviously connected to the time that he makes this statement in the Maimer in connection with the Sefer Torah that it just so belongs to all Yidden. At any rate, so his point being that all of this is permeated with what? Hareini mekabel alai, the Avos Yisrael, the Rabbim, the many. The Chol HaPratim v'dargis eilu b'tfila heim b'shleimusam, all of these levels of tefillah are perfect. Yedei Kabbalah's mitzvahs haseishel Avos Yisrael. So that's Rabbim Hoyim Modi, the second taich. That he incorporates and his geula, and he thinks of and he embraces all Yidden in his personal redemption. And hence, that's the reason, why it's B'Shalom. Yeah, very bekitzer, but we get the point. Yes? Let's conclude. No, well, yeah?
In davening in Kippur or Shana,
Yeah.
we take some of the psukim that we see all the time and we make them plural. Yilu, Tzani, Reinu, Hegeni, Bifnei,
In the we do it in the vidui.
Yeah. How come Hareini Mekaba? This on this is in Hareinu Mekaba.
Yeah, good question. Pashtus, you can't force somebody else to do this. When you're saying, may our words find favor in your eyes, so you can quote your fellow, you can include your fellow in a bracha. It's a good question because it leads to this is something you don't demand of yourself, obviously. So, hey, you better have obviously so you. Yeah. So let's begin the conclusion of Yerotzen. And this most unusual Maimon was said again. It wasn't a Fabrengen. We just said after Mincha. In connection with the Sefer Torah that was now going from New York, Crown Heights to Yisrael, and a few days later, Yitzhak Kislev. This Maimon was said today. What's today? Today, no. Today's Tezayin, no. It was said tomorrow. So, and they took the Sefer Torah and made a big achnos on Yitzhak Kislev. Which is also Pashtus why he mentions Eretz Yisrael here with such emphasis, because the Sefer Torah is going to Eretz Yisrael. The Aleinu, I think I mentioned when in my campaign to get people to sing the Aleinu, that Yadua, that by the Rebbe Aleinu was like a special tefillah. It's the send-off. It's the whole mission statement. Embraces the whole world. It's the final thing of davening. The Maidani and the Aleinu, these are the old days, just at the Fabrengen the other night, by the oil, you the Kislev, whatever someone is speaking, nothing changed. I take issue with that. Many things changed. Our generation is different, the different challenges that we're learning. Of course, Torah doesn't change, but emphasis and approach is dramatic changes. One of them, it seems to me, is over the Deir HaShvi, over Deir HaShishi, which he wanted to blur. There's no different. The Deir HaShishi, previous generations, the hallmark of the Chassid, if you want to pick out his davening, was Krishim Shalamita. So many endless stories of Chassidim, hours, a whole night. We don't find that emphasis by the Rebbe. The emphasis is Meida Ani. In other words, it's, you wake up in the morning, even if yesterday wasn't so great, whatever. It's a new day, on we go. more the emphasis on asay tov, on the positive. Kishon mit is the browbeating and the tshuva, and it's all very important. But our generation, the emphasis is pick up that stuff and go forward, and don't look backwards. That's definitely the Rebbe's, and that's our generation. It's a very big change from the old Dera Shishi. At any rate, so Mitzvah Shalom will continue the Hirotzen tomorrow.